go.
Alright guys, here we go. We're doing F-16 versus F-16 here today. I'm flying the Polish F-16, and the other guy, Longshot, he is flying the Israeli F-16. And we're going to have a good old-fashioned BVR fight here today. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and drop tanks, and I'm going to climb to a higher altitude. Alright, that's to get into the thinner air to increase the probability of kill of the missiles. Now you'll notice here I'm not doing a crazy shuttle climb. I'm not just like completely vertical going straight out ballistic, and that's because you want a nice gradual climb, maybe something between a 7 to 10 degree climb, and you're just trying to keep your speed high. You definitely want to be north of Mach 1.3 in the Viper for those really long range 50-60 kilometer 60 mile AMRAAM kills. So a nice gradual climb. You want to dump those tanks because they're going to weigh you down, and you're going to get as high as you can. Above 40,000 feet is a really nice place to be, and north of Mach 1.3. And that's going to allow you to absolutely sling those AMRAAMs really far at the other guy. And I can't stress it enough, the Mach speed, your speed at those altitudes is extremely important. If you're below Mach 1, it's not going to work. Okay, so we got our bandit on the radar here. Got him nice and locked up. Alright, he's 66 miles. I'm going to fire at 60. You can see I'm sitting at Mach 1.3, 37,000 feet, give or take. So that's acceptable parameters for me. 38,000, 60 miles, 39,000, Mach 1.3, Fox 3, right there. Alright, we'll give him another one, maybe at 55 miles. Maybe 50 miles, actually. Now we're at 42,000 feet, still Mach 1.3, Fox 3. Okay, so there's no point in us staying up here at this altitude if we're not going to fire any more missiles. We're just asking to get killed. So we're going to go ahead and offset left. I'm pushing him to the gimbal limit of the radar. You can see I'm pushing him to the edge on the right side of my radar. That is the gimbal limit. I'm going to dive, but I'm going to maintain that. And what that's going to do is so he doesn't get any notification of the missile launch. Okay, so I'm just going to hold that lock as long as humanly possible as we dive. And we're going to stay in burner because we need this speed. The speed is going to be very important in this fight. And I've lost the lock, so he now will receive the RWR notifications for those launches. However, if he's good at BVR, he would have already assumed that those missiles were coming. And he probably could have deduced it also from my behavior if he was watching me on my radar, on his radar. right? So we're just going to continue the offset here because we're dragging his missile. We're dragging it left because he's probably fired too. We're assuming that as well, just like we fired on him. And we're going to slowly recommit. And the high speed is also important for that. Okay, the high speed means we're going to get further, drag the missile further left. And so we have him locked up here. We're going to go ahead and re-engage, recommit onto the target here. And I have him at 32 miles. I'm going to climb. I'm going to start increasing my altitude to give my missile a better probability of kill. You can see I'm sitting at, I don't know if you saw it there, but I'm sitting at north of Mach 1.3 still. 1.37 it looks like there. And I've lost him. But I know where he's at, and I know he's pretty far, and I know he's low. So even if he fired a missile, I'm not too worried here. I have him back on radar. Go ahead and lock him up. I'm at 15,000 feet. He's 21 miles away. And he's still very low. I'm going to continue to press my advantage here. I don't want to get too high, because then it's going to get hard for me to dive down into the thicker air quickly as the ranges decrease. And so that's a Fox 3, and now we need to defend because he's fired at us too. We're going to quickly dive and enter the notch position. Okay, now I'm definitely well within the minimum abort range at this time. However, I want to be a little bit more aggressive, so I'm actually going to dive in. You see him dropping flares and chaff back there. It's just part of his countermeasure program. I've dropped some as well. I'm going to go ahead and recommit while he's dealing with that missile. I might be able to get a jump on him here. We got a missile coming in very close, and it's behind me. So I didn't see it, but I'm pretty sure I dodged it because I'm still alive. Alright, now he's going to be over this mountaintop here. And I'm getting close, so I need cover. I'm looking for those mountains. I'm looking for where I can dive off. And I saw something to my left here. Got him locked up. That's a Fox 3. 5 miles. We're diving left. Gonna get behind this mountain. And he fired at us too. Alright, his missile went on the other side of the mountain, and he's dead. Splash 1. If you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting my work on Patreon. Really helps me out when you do that. Big thank you to all of you who are already supporting the channel. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Alright guys, so here's our TAC view. We got long shot in the blue F-16. I'm in the red F-16. And we started at about 100 miles apart. And let's go ahead and see what happens here. So the first thing that I do is drop my tanks. And the reason I do that is because I need the aircraft to be light because I plan to climb, and I need a high Mach speed up high. And if the aircraft's heavy, I won't be able to get those Mach speeds that I'm looking for. So for that reason, I'm going to climb up, drop the tanks, climb up. And right here I'm passing through about 30,000 feet. You can see the blue F-16 doing the same thing. He's dropping his tanks, and he is also climbing. And we'll switch back to me. And so we're about 69, 70 miles out here. The magic number, if you're at the correct parameters, is actually about 60 miles. But you can see this first AMRAM's already off. And the reason that it's 60 miles from my tests, for some reason, when the missile's been in the air for X amount of time, it goes dead. And even though the seeker should be seeing the guy and it should be tracking, for some reason the missile stops maneuvering and just, you know, it's as if it went stupid or something. And my theory, and I don't know if it's actually true, is that DCS modeled flight time for the missiles in the form of like a battery. Like the missiles have an onboard battery of some kind. And when there's a certain amount of flight time, they just shut down. And from testing, I realized that the longest shot you could take was probably about 60 miles. So this missile being fired at 64 miles is probably going to be dead when it reaches me. All right. And that's 60 miles if the guy stays completely nose hot on you. So I wait for exactly 60 miles and I fire my missile. And you can see his is climbing much higher than mine, because he like pointed his nose up and fired it at the same time. And so he's got a second one that came off at about 48 miles. And I had a second one that came off about 52 miles. And so what you see me doing here is an offset to the left here. And if you remember, I showed how I was pushing him to the gimbal limit of my radar, and I'm creating a situation where we have an offset to the maximum that the gimbal of the radar will allow. This looks like it might be around 40-ish, something like that, 40 degrees. So what this does is it decreases, it decreases the closure and increases the flight time of the missile as it's coming. It also, as I move this way, it drags the missile to this direction here. And any time that you can force a missile to turn, it's going to result in the missile losing energy. And the reason is because the motor of the missile only is really on for, I think, about 7 or 8 seconds tops for the AMRAAM. And so it's going to start getting dragged over. It's going to start losing energy, so you're increasing the flight time, which if it's fired at a max parameter shot, like when it came off at about 64 miles, and even the 55-mile shot, it's going to increase the flight time of the missile, and that's going to decrease the battery. It's going to increase the probability of the battery being dead by the time it gets to you. All right. If you just continue straight, the 60-mile AMRAAM will probably hit you. All right. So, and the other thing is I'm also maintaining lock on this missile. And because I'm doing that, he is not receiving a TWS notification, a missile notification of the TWS launch of this missile. If I break the gimbal lock, that missile has to use its own radar and he will receive the notification. If I can maintain it as long as possible, I can get the missile as close to him as possible before he gets a warning that the missile's been fired. Alright, so there's a whole lot of reasons to do this offset. Alright, and so now, the reason he's already diving is because he's predicting. He's assuming that these missiles are coming in. Right here I actually lose lock, and that's because he goes cold. So generally when aircraft go cold, DCS radars lose lock. As they dive, sometimes you lose a lock. So I lost a lock here, and I lost it before I would have liked. So right here is when he receives the notification for these missiles. All right. Now he's sitting at Mach 1.3 I'm at Mach 1.66, so I have an energy advantage here, a kinematic energy advantage. I'm much faster than him, and that's really where you want to be. And you know, I get a lot of comments like, why are you in burner all the time? Okay, I'm in burner because I'm max performing the aircraft in dogfights. In BVR fights, you need the energy because when you fire a missile, the initial speed of the missile is what your speed is. So if I'm Mach 1.67 and I fire a missile here, that missile off the rail is traveling 1.67 Mach. Okay, if I'm traveling 0.8 Mach, that missile speed is 0.8 Mach, which means I'm actually decreasing its initial speed by almost half if I do that. All right, so these are things to consider. You have to be an afterburner. If you remember, this F-16 from some of the shots in the video was not an afterburner. So it may seem like he's conserving fuel and all of that, but when he recommits, he's going to be in a disadvantageous position compared to me, who's almost 0.3 Mach above him. My missile is going to have 0.3 Mach more energy, which is going to increase the whiz of my missile compared to his, which means I can reach out farther to touch him compared to him, right? These little margins make a big difference as the fight continues. You can see these two missiles, they just don't even track. They've obviously lost lock, or they're dead in the air because of the battery issue. They just don't even try to track. My two missiles, one is tracking, the other one's dead. All right, now here, I've picked him up on radar and I start climbing because I know approximately where he's at. He's fired off a missile. Not sure if he mad dogged this or if he actually had a lock on me, but either way, because he was at a very low altitude, I'm not too worried about this missile, even though it is lofting itself quite nicely. Here I continue to close in. I didn't really know about this missile just yet, actually. Or did I? Hold on. I might have. I don't know. I might have just ignored it, honestly, because I knew how far he was because I have him on radar. And so here I get within, let's see how far we get. 14 miles. Let's see when he fired his missile. So at altitudes like this, a 33-mile AMRAAM is just, it's useless. It's a waste. That one, so the one he fired was never going to hit me. And so here again at 15 miles, he recommits and fires another one, but again, he's low. I've actually climbed this entire time. Okay, you can see the path of my aircraft. I climbed up because if I climb, the AMRAAM performance is better than down low. So I'm actually increasing the range of my missile. Notice my Mach speed. Again, Mach 1.47. Look at his Mach speed, Mach 0.86. Okay, so my AMRAAM is not only coming off the rail faster, it's also got a significant altitude advantage compared to his. Okay, and so here comes my missile launch, and you can see that missile's been off the rail for what, a second, and it's already Mach 1.93. Okay, his missile, Mach 2.47, but it's low, and you'll see the energy states as we continue here. I'm going to go for the notch. And look at this missile, dead. Already dead. Look at my missile, Mach 2, 2.5. So you can see a very significant difference in missile performance if you keep your speed high and your altitude significantly higher than the enemy. And so here he fires a second missile. This one's coming off Mach 1.55. Again, his Mach speed 8.4. So not really too worried about it. I enter into a notch position, and I just want to look at this missile before we continue. So these two missiles were pretty much fired at the same time, give or take 13 miles. His missile's dead right here. My missile's still Mach 2.6, and then watch how dangerous it really is. Because of that advantage I gave it, look at how it almost climbs right up his tailpipe. Like, it's close, man. And again, you see him at a reduced Mach speed, Mach 0.64. This is a really nice way to get yourself killed. Okay, you need to keep the energy high. I know it seems amateurish to keep your burner on the entire time, but it gives you such an advantage in a PVR fight. So there's that. His second missile is right here. And so this is the second missile that he fired. Now I recommit, and honestly, I took a chance with this one. I was hoping that it wouldn't be able to turn into me like it's doing here. And you can see that, like, he gets lucky that that missile doesn't hit him. I get lucky that this missile doesn't hit me. But remember, this is a second missile launch. This is not his first one. Okay, this is a second missile launch, and it comes very close. I'm seeing it here at 99 feet. Okay, now, one thing I can't make up my mind about is, has this missile been notched? I don't know. I feel like maybe it's possible this missile's been notched. Or did I just outmaneuver it and it flies away behind me? Now, as far as I know, multiplayer, there's no proximity fuses. You need an actual impact. And the reason for that, I think, is something to do with latency and ping and all that stuff. So you need a direct contact. He misses me by 99 feet here. All right. Is it a good idea to do this? No, not really. You know, and you got to respect that minimum abort range. And we are both well within that minimum abort range. At this altitude, the minimum abort range is something like 10 nautical miles. And you can see here we're at 9.27 and I recommit. And the reason I recommit is because this is a fight to the death, right? In a server situation, quite honestly, I probably would have turned away and gone home. There's no, or maybe just if I had more missiles left. Okay, if I had more missiles left, I would turn off and I would try to get some distance and recommit and do this again and hope that he didn't get this lucky twice, right? If I was out of missiles, I'm not going to close in for guns. I'm just going to turn off and go home. But because this is a fight to the death, I'm going to recommit. So the point being, I don't recommend being this aggressive because you might not get as lucky as I did here when this missile hits me, or almost hits me. And so here, I know approximately where he's at because I saw his flares drop as he was defending this missile. I recommend being because get as lucky as I did here. Or here, I know approximately. Okay. And so here we're recommitted. I'm well aware that we are within the abort range because I can see that on my radar. And what I'm looking for is this mountain cover in these two areas. All right, because I know and I can tell that he's swinging his nose around. So I know that as soon as I fire, I need to dip behind something, somewhere. Okay. Because I'm probably not going to have enough time to get into a notch against anything he shoots at me. So that's the plan. I lock him up. Five miles. Look at that. Right at 5 miles, that's a missile. At Mach 1.26. He is now Mach 0.58. Now, it doesn't really matter at this distance because his missile will still hit me. Look at this missile, it's still chasing him. It's giving him hell. It chased him. Look at the flight path of this missile. It looks something like this. Like it's been chasing him this entire time. That is a bitch. And that's what happens when you fire a missile in a good energy state. Alright, so here I fire this missile and I immediately dive. I try to get behind a mountain. Now, I normally would have flared here, but I knew that I was safe because I could tell I was behind the mountain cover. And you can see that missile, it can't see anything. So his missile, as it gets fired, pretend you're the seeker head of this missile. Right? You can't see what you're trying to hit, so it just veers off. And there I am. right? Now, could I have had enough time to maybe notch it? It's very possible. I was in a good position, right? Instantly into the notch. It's possible. I would have dropped some chaff. I might have got lucky. AMRAAMs are a lot easier to notch these days, so it's possible. However, our blue F-16 is not so lucky. Could he have done the same? Instead of breaking left, he could have come right and try to get behind this cover. I don't know if it was high enough for him. But also notice that his speed, being Mach 0.62, he probably wouldn't have been able to get behind here fast enough for a missile that's coming at the speed of Mach 3, pretty much. And that missile's going to hit him at Mach 3.2. You can tell he kind of went for a notch, though. He tried to notch it. Just not quick enough. Yeah. Alright guys, so that's going to be the TAC view for today. There was a lot to unpack there. Let me know if you have any questions, but I think the main point to take away from this is that altitude and speed are your best friends in a BVR fight. Okay, those are two absolutely critical things. And you also need to know the abort ranges of missiles at different altitudes. That requires testing and all that other stuff. We'll probably explore that stuff in other videos as we go too. So, alright guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.